On today's show, an old friend is back. Matt Fontana is here. We're going to talk about the game against the Celtics, whether or not that is a true measuring stick game for the Cavs. Plus, the trade deadline is this week. Do we expect a move? We're going to talk about all that, so much more on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. Joined today by Matt Fontana, who you know from ESPN Radio, and of course, only there, nowhere else ever. He's only ever actually worked at ESPN Radio. We will get to him in a second, but thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com today to get started. As I mentioned, Matt Fontana is here of ESPN Radio, and we're here to talk about the Cavs taking on the Boston Celtics tonight, because this is, Matt, the third of four matchups. These two teams have split their first two matchups. This game happening in Cleveland. The first two matchups, one's been in Boston, which the Cavs lost. One's been in Cleveland, which the Cavs won. Kind of want to start with this, but is this one, do you believe in the NBA, like in the measuring stick aspect of things? Like, is this a regular season game that you circle as, okay, maybe this one means a little bit more than Sunday's game against Dallas did?
Oh, it's got to 100%. And I think for the team, there's teams that thrive on that. And it's like, you know, I know the Cavs, Donovan mentioned that. I can't remember. It was after one of the games they lost, the 3-game losing streak. And he kind of said, he goes, we haven't had to face adversity. And I'm not saying, and he even said, he goes, not saying we're getting complacent, but as long as this season is, as long as things go, you want to have these little things that you get up for. And again, they got to be on their P's and Q's when they play the Pistons. They got to be on when they face the JV squad that was the Mavericks on Sunday. Like, you got to take care of those. But dude, I was texting with you too about it. That was one of the saddest displays of professional basketball that I've ever seen. And I don't know, Dallas, like, they got the rug pulled out with Luka. They didn't know one else.
Right. It's hard for me to blame them for that.
I can't blame them for it, but I was just like, this is atrocious. I was like, this is got like the one dude, the white guy with the tats. I was like, I've never even heard of that guy. I looked
Tyler Kelly, baby.
He's played 2 career games. I was like, and he started, and I was like, geez, oh man. But anyway, sorry, I don't mean to go down another path here. But no, I mean, like,
this is a Kyler Kelly friendly podcast.
Oh, is it? Do you know him? Have you had him on? No,
I don't know him. I haven't had him on, but good for him taking advantage. He had double digits in points in that game, and somebody had to score for Dallas.
Yeah, Sam Merrill too. I mean, that was a big game for him too. But yeah, great game. But it's like, you know, you got to be focused for games like that. But it's like a little prize. It's like a little reward that you know you're going to be on the biggest stage. Everybody's going to be watching. And, you know, I want to talk more, and I know we will, about the game itself, like kind of on the ins and outs, the measuring stick part of it. But, like, I'm up for this game. I know the players have got to be up for this game too. And it's just fun. That's part of the reason that, you know, the NBA, they talk so much about the ratings being down or the problems, this and that. You want true rivalries. You want teams that want to beat each other, that'll see each other in the playoffs. Well, this is it. This is everything you'd want. Cavs, Celtics, we saw them. We're going to probably see them again at some point in the playoffs. Like, this is everything you could ever ask for.
Right. And I do think, too, the thing that excites me about this game in particular, because you go back to, you know, the game they played in November where the Cavs were 15-0, but they were pretty beat up at that point. I think they were a team that was exhausted. They were a team that was ready to not be undefeated anymore, if that makes sense. Where they go into Boston, they lose by 3. I thought they played really hard in that game. They fought like it was a very admirable fight, but they did it without Karis LeVert. Max Strus hadn't yet played. Isaac Okoro was out. Dean Wade was out. Boston wins that game. And then, of course, when the Celtics come to Cleveland for the game that they played December 1st, the Celtics are without, I believe, Jaylen Brown didn't play in that game. Drew Holiday did not play in that game. So you look at that and say, okay, well, these two teams have not played at full strength yet. And, of course, tonight not going to be full strength because you don't have Dean Wade. You don't have Isaac Okoro. but I think that this is the closest we might get between these two teams playing a game at full strength against each other this year. Maybe that matchup at the end of February will prove as such, but I'm excited to see what these two teams look like because I think this is going to be the closest thing that we've seen so far to a true playoff matchup between these two teams this regular season.
Yeah, and I want those guys to see Porzingis. I want those guys to see what it's like just to give Kenny Atkinson a little bit of ammo. And again, I'm not saying that they're going to come out, Joe Mazzulla is going to run every single play that they would run or flows and ebbs and flows of playoffs or even how a playoff series goes. But you want to get that little experience to know the little intricacy battles, the little things that even the team does. And I think that's why I've liked Kenny Atkinson so much, is so much of the adjustments that they've made. But games, are they going over screens? Or how are they closing out? What do they like to run out of these sets? Like what different lineups? And all of that will inevitably change within a couple of months, right? Like by the time the playoffs go, you're going to short your bench, you're going to change some things, but you're still going to have an idea of who these teams are and what they want to do best. And that's where I just want the Cavs. I want them to win. I don't want to lose to Boston, but I'm looking at it more of like, did Evan Mobley pick something up about this? Or is there something that Donovan Mitchell was able to see to give them some confidence that they might be able to take advantage of that in a potential playoff series? And I think it's also, at this point for the Cavs, where the number one goal has got to just be holding on to that number one seed. You have such a big lead here. If I'm Kenny Atkinson, I'm sitting there, I'm like, guys, this is worth two. This is worth two in this. So it's like, we're not even to the All-Star break. We got a long way to go, but you just start thinking about what that's going to mean towards the end of the season when they can rest Darius and Donovan and Evan and Jared and all the guys, because they have a 7-game lead with 9 games to go or something like that, where it would take a miracle for them to get back into it. Like every one of these games counts, but this one, it just even from that standpoint counts for 2.
So the Cavs enter this game on Tuesday night with a 5.5 game lead over the Boston Celtics for the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. It gets to the point, and should they win, it would go to 6.5. If they lose, it's going to go to 4.5. Like this game is, I don't want to say pivotal because a 4.5 game lead is still pretty significant with as much time left as there is in the season. Like I do think that's a significant lead for a team that has only lost 9 games all year. But if this gets to 6.5, like if the Cavs win on Tuesday night, I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, that clinches the 1 seed, but we start to live in a world where I think it's really, really difficult for me to see them not be the 1 seed if they have a 6.5 game lead a week before the All-Star break. Not saying it's insurmountable, but I'm just not sure I see the case where it wouldn't be. Like I don't see how they're not the 1 seed. So I do think this game matters quite a bit from that aspect too. And then even then, like if they win this game, they will at least split the head-to-head, and that matters as far as tiebreaker procedures go. I haven't looked at like how the Cavs and Celtics stack up in secondary and third and just down the list in terms of the tiebreaker, but I think this is a measuring stick game for a lot of reasons, and I do think playoff positioning is one of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing, to send that message again, because Danny, let's call it for what it is. We still know the Boston Celtics are the favorites, and they're going to be that way. They're the defending champions. You go look in Vegas, they're still the favorite for a reason. And I don't get so hung up on the national side of things about, the Cavs don't get their flowers or people don't respect them. Like, that doesn't really bother me, because you know how good this team is. I know how good this team is. The fans know how good this team is. They're doing it a little bit different than anybody else. But I also, as much as I said I don't care, I still want Donovan to get his respect. Like I want Jared, so that's a game where it's like they can go out there and take a little respect. And I think not even just for the other people, the media, people talking about it, to prove to themselves, because that's still a mountain that they're going to have to climb. That is still something that, again, even if they finish with the 1 seed and they finish with a 6 or whatever game lead over the Celtics, we all know it's a lot different if they meet in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's going to be a lot different when you got to go to the Garden to try to go win a game, or you got to, you're down, you find yourself in a hole, things got to change, whatever. I want them to prove to themselves that they're in the same level of the Celtics, or maybe even better than the Celtics. I'd love to be able to say that unequivocally. I can't right now. We'll see how this game goes, but I'd like to get there one day for sure.
Right, and to your point right now on FanDuel, the Boston Celtics are -110 to win the Eastern Conference.
Yeah,
Cavs have the second best odds at +320, but like for a team that is 40-9, I do think that is something in the Cavs are not sitting in the locker room firing up FanDuel looking at the betting odds, but right. I do think that is something that is a little insulting for how good they have been.
Harry Rozier might be.
Oh
Sorry.
boy, the fact that they are. The fact that they're such heavy underdogs, despite the fact that they've been so good and they've played Boston really tough, like I do think that is something that should be a little insulting. And, maybe that is a point that they want to prove on Tuesday night when this game rolls along. We'll have final thoughts on what to expect from this game. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming trade deadline and just how active we expect the Cavs to be. We'll do that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. What are some of the relationship green flags that you're looking for? We often hear about red flags, but those are the things we should avoid. But should we be more focused on identifying the positive signs in our relationship? The green flags, the good things. Well, if you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and then even embody that green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or maybe you just want to work on that relationship with yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy can help you to develop healthy boundaries, plus improve your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationship. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra cost. So discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA, LOCKEDONNBA to get 10% off your first month. Again, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're listening to the show anywhere you get your podcast, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, and also make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter. That's right, Locked On Cavs now has a newsletter. Head on over to LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com. So, Matt, what are the matchups in specific that you're looking for in this Cavs-Boston game? Because the one thing that I'm always interested in seeing is when Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland go against a really good defensive backcourt. Boston might have the best defensive backcourt in the entire NBA with Drew Holiday, with Derek White. And we have seen Darius Garland in particular at times struggle in this matchup. You go back to that game in Boston, he was 3 of 21. That is the thing that I look at and say, okay, where has the Cavs backcourt grown?
Yeah, and it's like to take it even a step further. Peyton Pritchard, who he's so fast, and there's just watching him play. It's got to be so annoying to try to get in front of him to make things tough. And I know, again, he's up there for 6th man of the year, and everybody wants Ty Jerome to get it. So that's another little kind of battle that I'll be watching. But still, I think that's a great point about just how they match up. With that, obviously, who's going to be guarding Jason Tatum, who's going to be on Jaylen Brown, just the differences in the size there. The wings, you're going to be missing some of those guys. Obviously, with Okoro being out, Dean Wade, which I've talked a lot about, Danny. I think missing Dean Wade on the defensive side has been so much bigger. I know he can hit a big three, but having a 6'9" guy on the wing like that can defend. That's what you're missing with Dean Wade. So you take all of it with a little grain of salt. Like I mentioned, the bigs, I just would like to see, what Mobley's got for a matchup kind of like this. For me, it's to just pace in the threes, just again, what are they going to fall into that trap? Are they going to be able to play at their own pace for the Cavs? And, obviously everybody's shooting threes at an insane clip right now, but the Cavs, you had that weird stretch where they were still playing well. And I guess a low stretch, it was that Pistons game, I think one other game, and they didn't shoot well from three, but they were still winning the game. So it's I think you need to bring that back, because I don't know if you're going to be able to beat Boston if you can't shoot well from beyond the arc. But yeah, it's going to be those little just kind of matchups. And I'm really going to be interested again to see Kenny Atkinson, as he's had to continue to change lineups. I'm so happy Karis LeVert is back. I just think that gives him that little bit of stability and gives him some options to go with a 3-guard look from time, just because Karis a little bit taller. But I'm interested to see more of what Kenny's got just on mixing and matching, knowing again that you don't have Okoro and Wade, but you're going to have a pretty good look at it of what your rotation would look like come playoff time. And I want to see if Ty Jerome, can keep on the streak that he's been playing at as well, because the increased minutes for him have been really, really good.
Right. Ty Jerome, he's been up and down this season. In November, he was fantastic. The month of December, he was not very good. And in January, he was great. So we'll see what February has to bring for him. But I think the Dean Wade point that you bring up is a good one, because he is very useful in a lot of matchups. I think he's pretty indispensable for the Cavs just because they don't have another guy that's quite like him. Like there's only one guy that is 6'8" or 6'9" on this roster with that skill set, and it's Dean Wade. I do think oddly enough, I think he might matter more in regular season matchups against Boston than postseason matchups.
Sure.
And hear me out on this. So I think that because I believe that when the postseason arrives, like Dean Wade is the perfect guy to put on Jason Tatum. Mm-hmm. But you know who I think is maybe even a better guy to do in that spot is Evan Mobley. Like I think he could be a better matchup if you want to stick him on Jason Tatum and just hey, go be the defensive player of the year on this guy, unleash him in that role. I think you could see that in the playoffs, but I don't think that's something you're going to see tonight,
Yeah. And that's the thing, kind of talking about the matchups we were discussing earlier. I don't want them to, I don't want Jason Tatum to get a book on Evan Mobley, right? Or, vice versa. And as they kind of feel each other out and understand, that'd be something that'd be nice to kind of flip on in a playoff series. And then Tatum's got to deal with. Then there'll always be changes from game to game. Jason Tatum's a great player, but yeah, that's a wrinkle. I like your thought process a lot for sure.
So trade deadline is 2 days away. Today is Tuesday. The trade deadline happens on Thursday. We've already had a couple of pretty significant, I think it's fair to say, blockbuster deals. We saw Luka Doncic traded in a trade that shocked everybody very early Sunday morning. We saw De'Aaron Fox traded Sunday evening. I think it's probably fair to call that. Maybe Sunday night would be more appropriate in a trade that shocked nobody. We have not seen the Cavs make a move. We've not really seen the Cavs rumored as a team that is looking very heavily. How do you expect the next, I don't want to do the math right now from when we're recording this, which is late Monday night. So if something happens between now and then, well, there will probably be an emergency episode, and 2, you'll be listening to this afterwards. So if you miss that emergency episode, if something did happen, go listen to that one too. But
Text
what do you
I'll
expect?
Jump back on for the emergency.
Yes, please. What do you expect between now and the deadline for the Cavs, Matt?
No, I think the number one thing for me is the luxury tax. If you can, what are they, 1.9 over right now?
Yeah,
and if
barely
you can,
over.
If you can just avoid that for one more year, I think it's 4.8 for next year. And
they will be significantly over next year because they're like 4.9
right.
over as of right now with 10 players under contract. So you do have to sign at least 4 more players to, have a legal NBA roster. So like that number that you see right now, it's going to go up.
Yeah. So this year, if it's in your control and you don't have to start the repeater tax clock kind and you don't have to be there for 1.9. I mean, I know you see him as much as I do, but it's like all, just kind of throwing stuff out there. Like one of them was like Caleb Martin and a 2 for Isaac Okoro. And you're sitting there and you're like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's like, well, if you're doing that strictly with the idea to get under the luxury tax, then like, okay. And I'm starting to think that is going to be probably the goal of Kobe Altman. And I know a lot of people say, oh, Dan Gilbert, he doesn't mind spending the money. And I'm not saying that Dan wouldn't spend the money. It's just, that's not smart business. If you can avoid it while you can, because then it also impacts your buyout market. Because if you're in the luxury tax, you can't sign anybody that's over that mid-level exception. And it's, again, not that the Cavs would necessarily be in that type of market anyway, but you want to leave those options open. And if you can, again, avoid getting into it to start the repeater, like, do it. It's a smart thing to do. Now, am I willing to just let Isaac Okoro leave? Not necessarily. I mean, let's call it for what it is. The Cavs have a really good book on what they look like without him. He's been injured and it sucks and I don't want him to be hurt, but they know what their team looks like with and without him. And to your point, talking about guys to go guard Jason Tatum. Well, it'd be nice to have Isaac Okoro to do that. But it's just the offensive shot, which got much better at the end of last season. Haven't seen, I don't think enough consistency to know if it's still there now. And you got to keep asking yourself, with the emergence of some of these other bench guys, do you find yourself as Isaac Okoro, a guy that's going to be playing meaningful minutes in a playoff series? And if you say, yep, got to have him, got to have the defense, okay, then we'll suck it up. We'll try to cut some salary somewhere else. You move on. Okay, fine. But at this point, I think Niang's getting minutes over him. I think Karis LeVert's getting minutes over him. I think Ty Jerome's going to have to get minutes over him. And these are obviously all different positions too. But you sit there and you say, and if you can somehow avoid the luxury tax, then yeah, take some second round pick with some other expiring contract and try to make the money work and get underneath the luxury tax. So I think that's probably number one. Cam Johnson, I think a lot of people keeps getting brought up, but I just feel like if there's other interests from other teams, which you know better than me, but it sounds like there is other interests. Like, I don't think the Cavs are equipped to get into a bidding war, nor do they really want to. And I've talked about it a lot on even on just my own, shows and platforms, stuff like that. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm good riding with this team. Like, I want them to go win an NBA championship. If they don't, I will never go back and be like, oh, should have made this move. Like, this team has shown me enough. I like a lot of pieces. I like how they can play the game. I like the matchups that they can get. Eventually, I'm just going to lay my cards on the table and say, this is the best I got. And if you're going to beat me, you're going to beat me, but I'm going to roll with these guys. And that's kind of how I feel about this team.
So there's one thing that you said that I very much disagree with. There's another thing you said I very much agree with. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. Plus, there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, even betting on the coin toss, yeah, you can do that. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets, well, that's just icing on the cake. So download the FanDuel app today or head to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Yeah, $200 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Again, that is FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com, or download the FanDuel app. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, hit that notification bell. Matt, I knew I told you only 2 segments, but that went on too long, and I want to talk about this a little bit more.
I'm going to guess. I want to guess because you said there's something you disagreed with and something you agreed with, so I want to guess. And it's not like we've done a show before or anything.
What do you think I disagree with?
I think you might disagree with when I said the amount of guys that would get minutes over Isaac Okoro in a playoff series.
That is not what I disagree with.
I thought I was so for sure. I thought that was
what. Okay, well, what did you think that I agreed with? Because I'm curious if you get this wrong. How well you actually know me? Maybe we didn't do a daily radio show together for 2 years.
Maybe we didn't. Yeah, maybe we didn't, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention for a lot of those shows.
That's likely.
I mean, I think broad picture, you would say getting under the luxury tax would be.
I disagree with that. See, that's what I disagree with.
Oh,
yes. So hear me out. If the Cavs were, let's pull up the standings here. So the Cavs are in first place in the East, 40-9 as we record this. If the Cavs were the Milwaukee Bucks, where they are the number 5 seed in the Eastern Conference right now, they're 26-21 as we record this. They just tipped off against Oklahoma City. It is 8:21 Eastern time on Monday night as we record this. So they will either be 27-21 or more likely 26-22. If the Cavs were there, I'd be all for that. Like, I think that would make the most sense. But because the Cavs are so good, because the Cavs have shown so far this season that they are in the inner circle of teams that can win the title. Like, are the Cavs going to win the finals? I don't know. Can the Cavs win the finals? Absolutely. Like, there are 3 teams that FanDuel has with odds better than plus 1,000 to win the NBA finals this year. It's the Celtics at plus 210, OKC at plus 230, and the Cavs at plus 750. After that, like, there's a gap between them and the Knicks are plus 1,300. So there's a very sizable gap between 3rd and 4th. The Cavs are in that inner circle. And when you are there, and I get the business standpoint, you're right. Like, would it be smart business for the Cavs to get under the luxury tax? Yeah, because that, the luxury tax that they're paying right now is not a big deal. Like, it's not a lot of money. It's, I think, less than $4 million in tax penalties. And that money will be exponentially more 4 years from now when they have to pay the repeater tax because they are, a very expensive team when all of these contract extensions kick in. I totally understand all of that, but I don't think that it's a very good look for a championship caliber team a team that is in first place by, again, as we record this, 5.5 games over the defending champion Boston Celtics, a team that has a winning streak of 15 games and 12 games, a team that looks like it is just starting a legitimate championship window, a team that also really prides itself on what that locker room is, the camaraderie that group has, how much they genuinely do seem to like each other. I don't think those things are worth, chipping away a little bit of it to slide under the luxury tax. From a business standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. But with how well the Cavs have done, I don't know that it's the best look to trade away somebody solely for the purpose of cutting costs. Now, if they find a trade where they get a little bit cheaper and they can say, hey, we got better on the floor by making this trade, sure, do it. But if you're only making a trade where you stay the same or maybe even get a little bit worse on the floor, I don't think that's a good idea for the Cavs.
No, and I'll agree and disagree with you on some here. I agree, because it's like when so many people are throwing Karis LeVert's name out, I just am like, no, absolutely not. And again, I know he's on the expiring deal. I mean, you know me, I'm a giant Karis LeVert fan, but that's the one where I'm like, that's exactly where you and I agree. Like, the easy answer would be, Karis LeVert, because somebody will take an expiring contract. I'm like, no, I think that actually makes the Cavs so much worse. Coro is one that it is easy pickings, and I don't like to keep bringing him up, but it's like they have a big enough sample size to say we can kind of do this without him. Now, again, it's a lot different once you get to the playoffs, and defense is so much more important and paramount in the playoffs, which I completely understand. And you're right, Kenny Atkinson, they might be sitting there saying, man, we can't wait to get Isaac back, and he is untouchable, and he's got to be here. But I think that would just be, if they did do it, that would kind of be my sell on it. Would be like, listen, we kind of know what it looks like without him. We think we can handle it. This is the smart business thing to do, and we got to move forward. But I will fully admit, even the trade, rumors that I've seen even surrounding Okoro, I don't think the Cavs are getting markedly better. So to your point, I agree with you on that. I don't necessarily, well, I guess I was saying make a move for the sake of making a move, but I don't even see a lot of moves, especially with LeVert, and I think some with Okoro. Some of them I'm just kind of like, you're lucky if that's a wash, and I don't even think it's going to be a wash. I think the guys that you have are better already, so don't mess with it. So, and I'll tell you this, like, I actually don't think the Cavs are going to do anything. I really don't.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
But so, and if you listen to the podcast, you've heard me say this, and it is teams that win the title. And the thing I agree with you that you said is that the Cavs are good enough as is to win the title this year. Like, if the roster does not change, if the 14 guys that are on the roster right now on NBA standard contracts that are eligible to play in playoff games, if those are the same 14 guys on the roster the day the playoffs begin, April, whatever that date might be, if that is it, this team is good enough to win the finals. I firmly believe that. It sounds like you believe that too.
Yes.
And when you are that, like, you're either that or you're not. And it's very, very rare that teams that are that make trades in season. I went back and looked of the last trivia question for you here, because I know you love these.
I do.
I know you better than you know me.
Exactly.
Of the last 10 NBA champions, how many teams traded for a starter, a guy that was a starter that postseason during the season?
Okay. I don't want to keep us here all night, so I'm going to try to quickly. I'm going to say 2. I want to say 3, correct. I'll say 2.
2 is correct. Do you know the teams?
So I wanted to obviously say Golden State.
No. Golden State, in the 4 titles they won, they never made an in-season trade.
Okay.
The 4 years they won the title, they did not make a single trade in season.
Lakers COVID year jumped out to me, but
nope.
Nope. Okay. I don't think it was the Celtics last year, right?
You are correct. It was not.
Okay. Then Milwaukee. I'm not going to be able to get it. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it.
Milwaukee was one of them. PJ Tucker, who played.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
He started every postseason game for them and averaged like 3 points a game. And the other one is Toronto. They traded for Marc Gasol, who was a really big piece of that team.
Oh,
but it speaks to just the rarity of it. Like, you are either good enough or you're not. And there are not trades that happen in season that make teams good enough to win the title. I believe the Cavs are good enough to win the title. I don't think they need to make a trade.
Sure. And that's the thing. At the end of the day, like, they are set. And I think with a lot of the other teams where you're talking about all the excitement about, I'll just say like Houston, okay, they're built it up, but all that stuff is still like unknown. You still got to make the draft picks. You still got to make this move and stuff like that. The Cavs know their future. And outside, again, Karis LeVert and maybe some other guys, like their core outside of Kobe Altman wanting to make a move will be here for the next 3 years. So you're right. I mean, at this point, if you're setting this up, that this is how it's going to go. Plus, we also got to remember, too, this is just still first year for Kenny Atkinson. In 2 years or, next year or the year after that, and let's say you're getting to the finals, but just can't get over the hump, or you're getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and you're not getting there and you're not quite getting it done, then you can maybe talk about a change or talk about a trade or something like that. Like right now with Kenny Atkinson, like this is cooking. Let's just keep rolling with this. Like I'm with you 100%. I don't think the Cavs are actually going to make a move. I would say if something presented itself that you could get under the luxury tax and also help the team, then obviously 100% do it. But yeah, if I was betting right now, I would say I don't think the Cavs are going to make a trade. We'll see what the buyout market looks like, but I don't think they're going to make a trade. Yeah,
well, we're in the same spot there. Matt, thanks so much for doing this. Where can everyone check out your work?
Yep, just follow me at Matt Fontana 83. Weekly shows on Big Play. I'll be back with ESPN Radio soon here coming up as well. So just drop the follow on the Twitter for all my hot Myles Garrett takes after today. So that was a lot of fun.
I kind of wanted to talk about that because obviously, like, he's a part owner of the Cavs, and I saw your tweet at me earlier. Hey, I kind of wanted to talk about it because, So imagine the YouTube thumbnail I could make where it says Cavs part owner wants out. It'd just be the funniest clickbait thing ever.
Would he still get cheered like at the game when he's sitting there? Even if he goes
I wonder if he's going to show up tonight. I wonder if he's going to show up tonight because if that trade request did not come out on Monday, this is a game that Myles Garrett would have been at, no doubt.
Yeah,
I'm very curious if he's going to be sitting courtside and in his normal seats for Cavs Celtics on Tuesday night. Fascinating to find out. But
and Donovan sent a tweet too. He sent the emoji like 2 minutes after.
I scroll through the Cavs subreddit and shout out to all the people in there. They're awesome. And there are obviously a lot of them that are only Cavs fans. Like they have no connection to the Browns. They don't care about that. And that's fine. That's great. And Donovan just tweeted out like that emoji and someone posted and there's like, is something happening? Like, is something coming with the Cavs? And then it's like, no, Myles Garrett requested a trade. It was like, this is just gold. I was talking to Jackson Flickinger, who runs the Fear the Sword, the SB Nation site, at an event we were at on Monday night. And I was like, dude, you missed the opportunity. Like you should have had a post going. And Jackson is a Steelers fan too, to make this a little bit funnier. It's like, you should have had a post that just said Cavs owner wants out. And like, that's all the post says and see what the reaction is. Cause it would have been hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, and that's the thing. You could tell Myles obviously was so in with Cleveland and wanted to be a part of that. And hey, man, they didn't hold up there into the bar. I was trying to think though, like, because so many people want to be like, oh, Myles can call a shot. And just to tie it back to the NBA real quick, it's like, this isn't the NBA, where he could sit there and be like, nope, want to go here. He has no, trade clause. He's under contract. Like, I do think people get a little drunk on the NBA from time to time where superstars can call their shot or they do sign and trades a little bit different. The NFL, I'm like, he's kind of stuck where he is unless the Browns actually want to trade him. But, it's crazy to see that. It's crazy to see that this week where you had, I'm just going to say, I think the biggest trade in my lifetime of watching the NBA, like LeBron going to Miami, he left. That was a trade, but
that wasn't a trade though.
It wasn't a trade.
I mean, Dallas willingly sent a top 5 player in basketball to the Lakers. It didn't ask anybody else if they wanted him.
No, and then to know it came out overnight and nobody knew about it, and Shams thought his own phone got hacked. Like
I thought it was fake, man.
I did too. And then you saw, I know we got to fly, but I wanted to text you about this. Like, do you buy in that thing that Dallas is worried about his weight, or they don't think he's going to?
I mean, I think that they got tired of some of the stuff.
I'm sure they got tired of some
Luka,
of the stuff.
But I mean, they were in the finals 8 months ago. Like, you put up with some of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. I understand part of it. I don't understand the fact that they didn't shop him and try and find a better offer. Like, Anthony Davis is an awesome player. And I think it is, to tie this back to the Cavs here quickly, I think it's a really cool thing that Dallas's general manager, Nico Harrison, in a on the record interview with the Dallas Morning News, says, we want to look more like the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, I thought that was a really interesting thing to say in that moment after you trade away the guy who was going to be the best player in franchise history for a franchise that has Dirk Nowitzki as its current best player ever. Like, that was jarring to see, but I think that's a great sign as far as the Cavs go, that teams across the league think like that. But Matt, thanks so much for doing this. And thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave a nice review, be a friend, tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I'll be back tomorrow talking about the Cavs taking on the Celtics.